Although, unfortunately, I know to many Winnipeg Jet fans, we're no longer introducing him as a Winnipeg Jet. We're introducing him as a member of the Seattle Kraken after he was the selection by Ron Francis in Seattle into Winnipeg. And Mason, well, welcome back to the Peg right now. Thanks for doing this. Kind of a funny way to bring you into the program, but you never know what's going to happen on live thing. How are things and where are you at right now?
They're good. Back in Green Bay, just kind of spending my last few weeks training here and kind of figuring out where I'm going to live out there. But yeah, it's been good. Had a little whirlwind of a summer, and obviously bittersweet leaving Winnipeg, but excited to get going in Seattle.
Take us back to those few days in and around the expansion draft. I mean, I think everybody knew when you were just looking at the Winnipeg Jets and the way this team was built that there was going to be some pretty good players that were available, and you in particular because of where you are in your career path, what your contract was right now, the value of cap space. It certainly did seem like there was a great possibility that you would be the guy. How are you feeling through that entire process before things happened, and how in touch were you with the Winnipeg Jets and then I guess the Kraken once they finally picked you?
Yeah, definitely a weird process. I mean, once right before the list came out, I got a call from Chevy, and he just kind of let me know where I probably wasn't protected, and that maybe they somehow where I wasn't selected or whoever they picked wasn't selected. But he said he'd kind of keep me in the loop. And then 3 days later, the day of the expansion draft came around, and I hadn't heard anything from anyone. The agent hadn't heard a word, so we're just kind of letting the chips fall where they fall. And then got a call from Chevy, and he just kind of let me know that Seattle was taking me in the expansion draft. And then said our goodbyes, and then 5 minutes later, called me, and we had a good chat, and I said they were taking me that night, and got to watch the draft with my family. Obviously, it's a little bit different when you're going in it and where you're going, but it was good. Like I said, it's tough leaving Winnipeg because so my first 4 years there, and I really like the city, really like the guys. So yeah, it was a bit different of a feeling. It's not like you got traded. It was just kind of like when they couldn't protect it, but at the end of the day, I'm excited to get to Seattle, and it should be a good team, but tough to leave Winnipeg.
Yeah, and I mean, the progress you made. I mean, I remember we spoke, a couple hours after you were selected, and I mean, to be perfectly honest, we're doing these draft shows, and you have a pretty good idea about the first round. You might know a few people in the second round. I mean, you don't know a lot of the guys in the sixth and the seventh round, and for you, to come there and then show up in Winnipeg, make the Moose, and have those seasons you did before coming in. I mean, it was. In a lot of ways, I think the Winnipeg Jets will use your example of a player that was picked later in the draft that, earned his way through, had phenomenal success, making the most of his time in the American Hockey League, and then really taking to a next level when you made it to the National Hockey League right now. I mean, how when you look back, what will you think about the path that you got to this point, the time in the American Hockey League, and how, I guess to use the Jets term, how you were drafted and developed here in Winnipeg?
Yeah, like you said, you've got a lot of different rosters, and it's a ton of first and second round picks. And going in the sixth, it almost put the chip on your shoulder. Especially that's kind of how I operate. If someone passes on me, it's like, hey, screw you. It's me versus you now, and that's kind of been my mindset my whole life. So, and I've always been a big believer. You got to be really good where you're at before you can move on to the next level. And I think I proved that in juniors, college, and with the Moose. So it takes time. Like guys think overnight they can go from junior to the NHL and be an impact player, and that's not how it works. It's a lot of work, a lot of consistent effort, and then one day maybe you're lucky enough to get there. But you gotta keep your head down. You gotta have a chip on your shoulder. And you gotta work. So I think that's kind of the way I went about my job every day, and that's why I think I had success early on with the Moose, and then found myself in the NHL within a year and a half signing my first contract.
I'm interested in the transition because, I mean, you're a rookie of the year, you had a great season, and you're playing a more offensive role in the American Hockey League. And then you come into the Winnipeg Jets lineup with those players, in that top six, and you realize that the role is going to be different. If you could tell us about that transition, and in particular, how did Paul Maurice handle you as a young player and kind of instill as to what he wanted from you, which, ended up turning out to be part of a really, really good line with Andrew Kopp and Adam Lowry last season.
Right. You jump to the next level, and when you're young, you automatically become the go-to guy. Once again, new year, new team, you're still on the first line, and that doesn't happen when you get to the NHL. You gotta earn your stripes, and playing on a fourth line under Paul Maurice, you gotta do the little things really well. And some nights you're only getting 6-7 minutes of ice, so you gotta be locked in, you gotta be glued in. You can't have little mental breaks. So I think with Paul, confidence is a big thing, and you earn that by playing the right way night after night. So I come from Manitoba, where go-to guy in the power play or played first line, and put up points with some really good players down there too. But then you get to the NHL, and the guys you're playing with, it's a little bit different style of a game. But you got to find a way to be good, and you got to find a way to produce, and you got to find a way to shut down their top guys. So I thought I did a fairly good job of that, kind of going up the ranks. And that's why this past season I was, on a line with Lowry for most of the year, and we found a way to create offense as well as, shut down top lines.
How overall, when you look back at last season in particular, playing the role that you had, the increased ice time, at times being in the power play, and becoming part of such an effective 200-foot line with Lowry and Kopp. I mean, you look back, and do you get close with guys like that when you're going out, like more so than other teammates, because of the amount of time you're sitting each other on the bench, and of course, getting out on the ice together?
Yeah, I think you mentioned Lowry and Kopp, and those are two of my closest friends, probably. With Winnipeg. So like you just said, you're with them all the time on the ice and off the ice. So you just you gel like that. But it sucks to leave all the guys, but it sucks to leave, guys you played 50, 80 games with. So that's the hardest part. But yeah, you got to build that chemistry on and off the ice. Just because your best buddy's off the ice doesn't mean it's going to work together on the ice. It's a total package type thing. And those are two guys love both on and off the ice.
What, when looking back, going to Seattle, I mean, what are your fondest memories of Winnipeg, and who are the people, whether they be teammates, coaches, or people in the organization, that you look back that really helped you get to this point?
It's a tough question. I think my first year with the Moose was obviously big learning curve, super eye-opening. You're not living with a bunch of college roommates anymore. Just I lived with one guy, Tucker Pullman, but life changes, and it goes from fun to being a job, and that'll definitely stick with me because it's not you're providing for your family, providing for yourself, and hockey changes once you hit the pro level. So that was kind of the first wake up moment for me. And then honestly, I'll miss the fans the most. There's not in every building it's sold out every night. Obviously this last year was unfortunate, but skating out into 15,000 fans with all white shirts on, it's an insane experience. But yeah, definitely miss the fans and the guys more than anything.
Mason Appleton is our guest here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, discussing his time here in Winnipeg, and looking forward to a new beginning with the 32nd team in the National Hockey League, the brand new Seattle Kraken. What was the first conversation with Ron Francis like? I'm sure you had a lot of calls to make right now, and maybe how much have you talked to the organization afterwards? And what are these weeks been like since you heard your name and knew that you're a part of this new team?
Yeah, it's been pretty simple. Just kind of, everybody getting to know each other, whether that's management, trainers, teammates, just a couple of Zoom calls just to introduce ourselves and say where we're from, where we came from, things like that. But conversations haven't been too detailed up to now. It's just like I said, attaching a face to a name. And then I'm sure once we get into Seattle, it'll get a little more serious, and we'll have some more detailed conversations. But they've been, pretty generic. My first conversation with Francis, just kind of explaining the city, explaining what he wanted us to be as a team, and yeah, very simple and just a good introduction. So, yeah.
You can get traded, you can get moved. I mean, it's pro sports, it's part of the business, but you are going to a new team in an incredible sports market. And I think you, of course, were with your family knowing they were going to call your name, but you saw that scene of the fans there for the announcement of the picks. I imagine as a player that, certainly I'm sure believes that you're capable of more and looking forward to a greater opportunity. There's a lot to be excited about this move to the Seattle Kraken for you, Mason.
Yeah. Playing on a team that has a bunch of firsts coming up it's going to be incredible. I can't help to not look at Vegas and what they've done their first couple of years, and the energy behind that city and behind that organization has been incredible. So hopefully we can follow suit and be a big boost in the community and the city. We're going to give them a big sense of pride. I mean, obviously it's a prideful city with the other sports teams they've got there, but we're going to have great fans and we're going to have a great team. So super excited for what lies ahead.
Have you thought about the Kraken's first trip to Winnipeg and what it'll be like going up against all your former teammates that you pretty much played your entire professional career with?
Right. But once I get in Winnipeg, staying in the hotel and walking in on the visitor side, that'll be definitely weird. But I guess we'll cross that bridge when it happens. But yeah, definitely different.
I'm just thinking, we always hear the stories about the money on the board in the dressing room when guys are playing up against their old teams. I mean, you and the Kraken are going to have something on the board pretty much every night this season, Mace.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that, but for sure there'll be some money thrown around there, and that's a good thing. Get the fine fun growing.
Now, you are going to a sports crazy city. We always like talking to you about your background in Green Bay. We know you are a lifelong member of the Packer Nation and a lifelong cheesehead. Are you going to need to tone that down a little bit in Seattle, considering the incredible history between the Seahawks and the Packers? Or will you show up? Will you have no problem rocking a little green and gold on Sundays if you guys aren't playing?
Yeah, if you know me, I'm not toning that down at all. I'll probably ramp it up, honestly. Yeah, very prideful of the Pack. And, actually Seattle plays in Green Bay once this year. I wish it was the other way around. But, yeah, big Packers fan, diehard. And, getting Aaron back was huge this year. So now we can put that to rest and, go win some football games.
Well, I had to ask you about that. I mean, as just a Packer fan, I mean, and there's probably a unique, perspective on it as a pro athlete. But I mean, I think even pro athletes would all love to be in the stratosphere that Aaron Rodgers is in Green Bay. What did you make of that entire thing? I imagine it was quite tough for Packer fans to deal with that sort of uncertainty.
Yeah, it was obviously the talk around the city. Weird situation, you hear this, you hear that. Once he showed up for training camp and was finally in the city, it was like, okay, he's coming back. And how they restructured the contract and all of that jazz is what it is. But he'll be in the green and gold this year, and I guess at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Mason Appleton is with us of the Seattle Kraken. Mason, it's been awesome having you on the program. I can tell you that, already just looking in the chat, the amount of Jet fans just thanking you for your time here and, just the way you blossomed into such an important player on the Winnipeg Jets. And everyone knew it was going to suck. And you were going to lose, a good player, and particularly here in Winnipeg with the quality players that, that weren't able to be protected. It was going to be someone that was a difference maker for the Winnipeg Jets, and you absolutely were. But I think everyone wishing you nothing but the best going forward into the next chapter of your career. Looking forward to seeing you back here in Winnipeg at the Canada Life Center in the road jersey with your new team, the Seattle Kraken. And I'll tell you what, there'll be a lot of people here in Winnipeg that'll be cheering for you in all but 2 or 3 games next season. And I'll tell you what, we certainly would love to do this again sometime, maybe in and around when the Kraken come to Winnipeg. But it's always been great chatting you back to your early days with the Moose, through the days with the Jets, and now as a Kraken. We thank you a lot for doing this. Wish you well going forward, and look forward to doing this again soon sometime.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me. Great chatting.
Right on. Thanks, Mason. There he is,
Thanks.
Mason Appleton, Seattle Kraken, with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. And